Live on PM Express tonight on the show, we are going to be looking at something that unfolded in the last few hours at the Electoral Commission, the disqualified presidential aspirants, the case of fraud, very serious allegations made tonight by the Electoral Commission chairperson, Madam Jim Mensah, against a few of the aspirants, 17 of them, who had filed to contest, hoping to get on the ballot as presidential aspirants. I want to quickly go through for you what the Electoral Commission has been saying about these candidates who have been disqualified. 12 of them are going through. 12 candidates have now qualified, met all the requirements to go through to the elections on December 7. They will be on the ballot that you will be using to cast your votes. Also, tonight, we are learning of the identities. Alfred Kwame Walker is an independent candidate who managed to get onto the ballot. His was a surprise because he wasn't one of those seen prior to the filing of nominations as a front runner in the space of independent candidates, because the candidates themselves had come together to form an association of aspirants. He wasn't on that platform, but obviously he sails through and becomes a formal candidate, independent candidate for the December elections. Of course, the sitting current president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo of the NPP, is also confirmed tonight to be a candidate. Now, another major surprise tonight is Akua Donkor, Ghana Freedom Party flag bearer, has also for the first time managed to sail through and has been confirmed as a candidate. So when you go into the booth on December 7, you will find Akua Donkor's picture and his political party as part of those you'll be voting for. That in itself is interesting. We're going to have a conversation about that tonight. Also, we have Christian Kwabena Andrews, Sofo Trabosom. I'm sure you've heard him campaign controversially. Flag bearer of the Ghana Union Movement is also on the ballot, one of those cleared tonight to contest. We also tonight know that the Bridget Jobenuku, the PPP's flag bearer, has also been confirmed to be on the ballot. So one of the key things you're beginning to see this year, and for the first time in our democratic history, we have three female presidential candidates who will be on the ballot. John Mahama, obviously, of the NDC, has also sailed through. Remember, this is interesting because the John Mahama's party, the NDC, raised a lot of concern with the process leading to the filing. In fact, they were late on the day to the Electoral Commission to file because they claimed that there were issues with the process, which has caused their delay. They claimed it was unprecedented and that they had to correct some voter ID numbers because they were afraid it could be used against them to disqualify them going into the confirmations. The Electoral Commission chairperson today read out the details, and it was clear that the NDC had no such issues on the documents that they had provided to the EC. Now, we also know today that Hassan Ayariga, who was also, in fact, the two faces you see on your screens right now, were both disqualified the last time in 2016 and could not run. For the Nakuneda Jiman Rawlings, she gets to be on the ballot for the very first time this year, and you'll be seeing her face on the ballot when you enter the booth to cast your ballot. So is Hassan Ayariga, who was also disqualified, very upset with the process, but will get to represent his party, the All People's Congress, in elections on December 7. Of course, he was part of those on our minority political parties debate last Thursday, together with the money that we put together. And so very interesting faces on the ballot this year in the polls as we go on to December 7. And then, of course, we know Ivor Greenstreet of the CBP was never going to be disqualified, and he gets onto the ballot as well. But something interesting happened with the CPP. We learned tonight that the one presidential aspirant, an independent candidate, appears to have forged, and this is an allegation made by the Electoral Commission, forged signatures of some individuals who were known people in the CPP who had already endorsed the documents of Mr. Ivor Greenstreet. The CPP writes to the EC, alerting them to it, and the police was called in. In the end, the CID confirms that the names that were found on the independent candidates' documents had been forged. The signatures had been forged. That raised some fundamental questions for the Electoral Commission. The police, we understand, is investigating this. Also, Henry Herbert Latte of the Great Consolidated Popular Party, the GCPP, also gets to get onto the ballot for this year. Now, we also know tonight that Percival Kofi Apalu, the Liberal Party of Ghana, has also, the LPG, also qualified. David Asibia Apasera of the PNC has also qualified. And so that makes a total of 12 candidates who've gone through tonight on the back of the confirmations that the Electoral Commission had made. But then there were challenges for a few of them, and we'll come to that. But you see there the 3 female presidential candidates who have qualified tonight, and this is history just been made just tonight on the back of what the EC announced at the press conference. Nana Kudirat Rawlings, Bridget Benuku, and obviously Ikweadonko have all qualified to go. Now let's go into the controversial bit. We're now going to look at the disqualified candidates, and there are 5 of them. I guess the 2 of them are most surprising. Includes Mr. Kofi Koranting. Is an independent candidate. Well, it's not a candidate. He's a now qualified aspirant, the disqualified aspirant. The EC says that they discovered that 19 persons who had supported the CPP also endorsed him. Now, further checks revealed that the 19 individuals were CPP executives. EC discovered that the signatures of the 19 persons were forged, and that is why he had been disqualified tonight. Also disqualified tonight is disqualified candidate of the United Progressive Party, Kwesi Odike. You know him, a very controversial character. The EC says the handwriting were similar and the signatures were the same. Issue was referred to the police. Outcome was that the signatures were again fake. Suggestion is that that also had been forged. Now, we also know that another disqualified candidate tonight is Kwesi Busumburu, who is the People's Action Party's flag bearer. He failed to provide some supporters for the same districts, incomplete data for a number of his supporters. A number of the supporters were not registered voters. Some supporters had different signatures on different forms. Police also discovered that the signatures were again fake. Again, all this have been forwarded to the CID for further investigations. Nana Jenny Mboating, another flag bearer of the United Front Party, had also been disqualified tonight. 3 of the persons who supported his candidature denied knowledge of same. Issue was referred to the police. Police concluded that the signatures were fake. And this is another major surprise tonight. Marie Kofi Gan, who many thought was the leading independent candidate among the field of independent candidates. Many thought he was leading. He had been very meticulous in his campaign, putting out a very detailed manifesto. He has been disqualified tonight. A number of the signatures of the supporters followed the same pattern. Matter was referred to the police CID. They conclude that signatures were forged. So what do we know about what the EC plans to do? They've referred all these to the CID for investigations, and we know that they cannot also appeal the decision that the EC has taken. Let's bring in Samson Lada-Yenini, who is joining us right now, who is a private legal practitioner. We also have with us tonight the EC's spokesperson, Madam Sylvia No. But earlier we spoke to Mr. Odike, who has been disqualified tonight. I'll bring you what he's been telling us very shortly about his disquiet with the decision. Thank you very much, Samson, for joining us here on PM Express. The allegations that the EC had put out border a lot on crime, the crime of forgery. You've heard the EC's explanations about this. What's your reading of how serious these allegations are in terms of the criminal implications for these individuals?
Right. So when the allegation of fraud comes up, by our laws, the matters be referred to and the nature of fraud being complained of will be fraud of other documents. Fraud of judicial or official documents is in the nature of a second-degree felony, which means that if you are found guilty of fraud, as in forgery of judicial or official documents, you are looking to go to jail for about 10 years. But if it is a fraud of forgery of other documents, then you are looking, if you are found guilty, to go to jail for a maximum of 3 years, because that is a misdemeanor, whilst the other is a second-degree felony and subject to a maximum of 10 years in jail. So very serious allegations there. The EC's own laws, if you refer back to 2016, when a similar situation happened, the candidates, Hassan Ayarega, Nana Konedo Ajman Rawlings, Papa Kwesi Ndum, they all went to the court. They sought refuge in the court. And when they went to the court's ruling in favor of Papa Kwesi Ndum on the 28th day of October 2016, Justice Chebafo in the High Court held that the Electoral Commission did not afford them ample time to take advantage of the law, which says that they can make alterations and amendments. Now, in this matter, from what we hear the Electoral Commission say, they were giving the opportunity to make the corrections that needed to be done. So it does appear that they cannot be mounting, a case on the basis of not having been given what is known as the rules of natural justice having to be applied with. And the first leg of that rule is that you don't condemn a man without hearing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that
a man unheard.
That last point you made. That last point you made about the ECs giving them a hearing. It's something I really want to confirm with the Electoral Commission themselves, because I'm curious. As of the time that the CID came back and said, well, what you alerted us on was fake, forged. I wonder if indeed he wrote back to the candidates and said, well, this is what we found. This is what the CID say. What do you have to say about that? Because I want to bring in Sylvia, just briefly, just to confirm this particular point about what they did, and then we could proceed. Madam Sylvia, thank you for your time here on PM Express.
Evening.
Can you hear me, Madam Sylvia?
Yes. Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us. Madam Sylvia is joining us on the telephone line. We have been chatting with the Zoom. Madam, and also that point that Samson just made there, if you can clarify for me, about once the CID came back to the EC and said the signatures were forged, did the EC then alert these candidates about that? And you sought to get their hearing, give them a hearing on that particular matter of alleged forgery of signatures?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Yeah, I'm told that since it's in borders of criminality, the EC does not necessarily, have to inform them that this is what we've been able to discover. Now, the crux of the matter is that the EC has realized that we forged some of the signatures and so on and so forth, that enumerated all these points. So now our legal team is handling the issue. Formally, we have written to the CID to take up the matter. And then the legal team, for the legal team to proceed in that direction.
Okay, so just to confirm, as at the point when the CID told the EC that the candidates may have forged their signatures, these aspirants were not necessarily, you didn't ask them to respond to that finding?
That's what I'm told to say.
Okay. So something, that's clarity from the EC there. Does it change anything? Something, if you have muted your Zoom, kindly unmute for me because I can't hear. Yeah.
I have not muted. Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Right. The basic principle of law is that fraud vitiates everything. Fraud vitiates omni vitiates. So once fraud has been found, or forgery has been found to have, happened, in fact, it is wrong to give the suspect, the one who is suspected to have committed the forgery, an opportunity to correct the forgery. You can't do that. It's wrong. But if you read the EC's own release, what Madame Jean Mensah read, you would find that they actually gave them some opportunity. So in respect of Kofi Koranteng, you will read that they say they contacted him and he confirmed or he admitted to that circumstance of fraud. That's what is in the speech delivered by Jane Mensah. But bottom line, they were actually those people who have been found to have committed acts of fraud or forgery are not to be given an opportunity to do an alteration or to do an amendment. Once you have been found to have committed an act in the nature of fraud, it destroys everything. Fraud vitiates everything. So when the High Court said, Kwesi, for example, the EC should give him an opportunity to correct his errors and to make alterations and to be heard, so to speak. The Electoral Commission disagreed with that decision and then went to the Supreme Court. What did the Supreme Court do? The Supreme Court gave about four different orders for the Electoral Commission to obey. And the orders were that all the candidates had an opportunity. They just took an advantage. All the candidates an opportunity to be to do it all over again. So the order to the Electoral Commission was that they should extend the duration of the nomination by one more day. And then after extending the duration of the nomination by one more day, they should give them an opportunity to be heard. To be heard means to make the corrections where necessary. But where the Electoral Commission found that the correction they wanted to make was in the nature of fraud, they were not allowed to do so. And that is pure law, very basic, fundamental law.
I mean, something just on that last point there. I mean, even when the CID finds that allegations of fraud, I mean, may have been committed, crime, possible fraud, wasn't it just appropriate? I mean, I get it. If it's fraud, it vitiates everything. Just so that if they have an explanation, they could provide. I mean, and the savior confirms that that didn't happen. I wonder if it wouldn't have taken anything out of the process, would it? If that had just been done, some explanation of a sort.
No, it's wrong to give someone an opportunity to consummate a crime that they have attempted to commit. It's wrong to give an opportunity to consummate a crime that somebody is attempting to commit. Now, it's rather unfortunate. The individuals involved, you can clearly tell people like Marek, guys like Kofi Kuranteng, they come across as people who are very serious and who know what they are about. And I can tell that some of these things, you know, even in 2016, some of the candidates had a problem and they didn't know that this is what had happened, because we know it's a bit difficult, particularly for independent candidates, to mobilize the people they need to make the endorsements. So the situation where Kofi finds himself in, I think he played out 2016 against, is it PNC and Hassan Ayarga, or one of them. You found the same people signing for, endorsing for one candidate, endorsing for another candidate. But it does look like, from what we are told, this time deeper than that, and it sounds a clear fraud by who take to those particular places for those people to endorse them. No opportunity at the Electoral Commission itself for an appeal, but when it comes to the court of law, there is always an opportunity. The doors are always open for people to attempt to seek some redress. If they wanted to go to the courts, they would have the opportunity of going for what is known as judicial review, to suggest that the Electoral Commission has done something wrong, and on the basis of that, it has committed some errors. And on the basis of that, they wanted the court to quash the decision by the Electoral Commission, disallowing them and to be given the opportunity to enter the race. They can try it, but by the nature of what the Electoral Commission puts before us, I doubt that that will be a useful exercise. And I've heard already suggestions that that is not done. Once the suspicion is there, that is sufficient. Either the police will proceed to prosecute, or if the police doesn't do so, then they will decide to mount civil suits in this regard.
I want to bring in Madam Silviano. Madam Silviano, so tell me, is there finality to this tonight, or the candidates are allowed to appeal to the Electoral Commission?
As far as the Electoral Commission is concerned, we have done that part. Now, like lawyer Labi Adenemi indicated, they may attempt to go to court for judicial review. But as far as the Electoral Commission is concerned, we have done our part, and we're going to go ahead tomorrow with the balloting.
Straight to the balloting. I mean, this door has been shut to them. They have no chance to appeal.
That would depend on them, solely on them. That would depend on them. But we have done our part as an institution. Instead of the 2 days, they had 2 days for the 2016 elections when they were filing their nomination. The Electoral Commission has gone beyond that and added 3 more days, making 5 days. So if there were errors, that maybe wrong ID numbers and so on and so forth, they could have had them rectified. But these ones, border on criminality. So it's a different scenario altogether.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, and yet I hear tonight that the Electoral Commission says that you are going to return their filing fees to them. Why?
And that is what the EC basically would have to give back to them their filing fee. And at the end of the day, those who have been able to sell through, if they are able to get 25% of the total vote cast, they can also have their money refunded to them. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, yes.
Their money be forfeited.
That second part you just said is law. Law says if you meet a certain threshold in elections, you get your money refunded. But this one was a purely administrative decision taken by the EC to refund the money to them because you disqualify them. But that's the question is why? I mean, if they have perpetrated fraud both on the EC and on the good people of Ghana, why are we rewarding them by getting them? I mean, this was going to encourage people in the next...
So you didn't want to take that up as a citizen?
Forgive me, I lost you. I'm struggling to hear that.
So you didn't want to take that up as a citizen?
Oh, with the this is an Electoral Commission decision. I mean, I want to understand what went to that decision to give them back their monies.
Yeah, the Electoral Commission so decided to give back their money to them because in the first place they have been disqualified. And when you talk about criminality, that's another issue altogether. But in the wisdom of the Commission, their money must be handed to them, and that's exactly what the Commission is going to do.
Okay, I mean, stay with me on this because this is interesting. Something. What do you make of that? They're getting their monies back.
And that's surprising to me, Evans, just like you are also surprised by it. People are not supposed to benefit from their crime. Now, once again, I need to state this, that it could well be that the candidates themselves practically have nothing to do with this. They would have given the forms to their people to go around and look for endorsers to endorse them. But once you are caught by the law, you are caught by the law. The EC's law is that you get a refund if you achieve a certain number after the votes. I would think that on the face of the forms, it will be stated that the money you pay is non-refundable, subject to the provision of the law that once you are able to make a certain number of votes, then you get a refund. So I would have expected that the monies would have been held.
Yeah, I mean, let me bring in also tonight, joining us, political scientist Kingsley J. Mr. J, thank you very much with the University of Cape Coast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I mean, I wonder what your reaction is to all that is unfolding tonight, and also the revelation by the EC that they will refund their filing fees to them. Do you agree that that should happen, Dr. Kingsley J?
Well, it's interesting. The Electoral Commission is constitutionally mandated to organize elections in this country. And therefore, we assume that they know the laws regarding their mandate. And so, where they make decisions that is outside the law, they could be challenged. All we know is that if a candidate is able to make at least 25, is it 25 or 15%, 25% of the votes, then even though that candidate does not win, he is given back his money. Here is we're talking about people who wanted to pass behind the law and make themselves available as presidential candidates. And they have been caught red-handed. So the reason for refunding their monies to them could only be explained by the Electoral Commission. I'm not a lawyer. I'm only looking at the number of minor parties that are joining the fray.
Yeah.
And the reason why they are doing so.
Yeah, we'll come to that specifically very shortly. Madam Silviano is still with me on this. So, Madam Silviano, the monies, have you already given it back to them, or you expect them in a process have to go through? You have to apply for it to get it. What's the procedure for accessing the 100,000 that they paid?
We just made the announcement today that we have to disqualify. So I would want to believe that the process would be set in motion anytime soon for them to have their money.
Okay.
On the other hand, I'd rather we wait and see whether the commission would take a second look, at the issue of the refund in the face of the arguments that are unfolding, that are emerging in the public domain. But for now, this is the stance of the commission, that all their money would be refunded
to them. And you've referred these allegations of fraud already to the CID.
Yes.
The intention of that is you want to see prosecution happen?
Of course.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, because obviously the questions about people deliberately or possibly maybe as something I suggested, they don't know about it, but it happened in their name nonetheless. And the EC, but Sylvia, you've been with the EC for a while. In 2016, similar reports emerged. If I recall correctly, it also went to the CID. I mean, recommendations were made to the CID. This is not the first time, I guess, I'm saying that this has happened. We haven't seen any prosecutions, have we?
We may have to go back and verify and be factual about it.
I mean, something you expect prosecutions to happen now if the CID goes. I mean, first of all, it is the CID that made the establishment that the signatures have been forged. Now that it's been referred to them as a criminal matter. Do you expect going forward that we will see some prosecutions, even if the candidates themselves didn't know about it? I wonder how that will play in their individual names.
We can only follow through and make sure that there is prosecution, at that level. But when it leaves our domain, we can only follow proceedings, And then it means that it is in another arena, the legal arena, and the judiciary would have to deal with it.
Okay.
Accordingly.
Samson, what do you make of that? I mean, prosecutions, you expect that to happen?
Yes, and once again, let me state most forcefully and emphatically that anybody who claims that on the mere allegations the mere allegations, on the basis of the allegations, the EC is able to refer the matter in the manner it has done. It is up to those involved to have themselves cleared by a court of law. The EC, like the police, is not a court of law and cannot pronounce you guilty of forgery or fraud. But it can, of course, pronounce on a suspicion. And this is a situation where they are actually saying that some of the people have admitted to what has happened. That the CPP, the PNC, or is it the CPP, discovers that a good number of its members are ones who have endorsed their candidate and at the same time endorsed another candidate. The EC says the signatures are found the same form, but in many copies. You find the same person and the signature is different, and you want the EC to sit back, watch, fold their arms, and say we have to wait for a court to declare them to declare forgery before we take a step. That is clearly wrong. That's not the law I know. And for the EC also, their own law says once you pay the money, you forfeit the money to the state if, as a candidate, you fail to make more than 25% of the votes. 25% of the votes. That is if you are a presidential candidate. If you are a parliamentary candidate, then if you fail to make 12.5% of the valid votes at the elections, then you cannot also get your money back. So why are they not withholding the money? The CID or the police, is their job now to determine whether they are going to proceed to file charges against these individuals in court for them to defend themselves, and they could, in the end, it could be found that they are not guilty, but that doesn't mean that this is a wrong procedure. If the CID doesn't do it, or the police doesn't go to court, they also have a right to proceed to court with, on civil, suits, and to seek to vindicate their right. There is one of the guys, I think his name is, there's one of the guys, what is being said against him, and you projected it. He seems to, it looks like he will have a good case against the Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
I've forgotten his name. One of the independent candidates is a guy.
Yeah. Is it, we have the case of there are two of them. Is it Marek Kofi Gunn?
No, not Marek, not Kofi Granting. There's another guy.
It's there's Odike, who's also been disqualified, and then there is
not Odike.
There is Nana Jinim Boateng, who's also been disqualified.
Yes, Nana Jinim Boateng. Can you go over the reasons for his disqualification again?
So Nana Jinim Boateng's case is that 3 of the persons who allegedly supported the candidate's nomination, namely, they mentioned their names and constituencies, have denied endorsing the candidate's nominations. Now, of the nomination form, the commission referred the matter to the CID for further investigations. They say, remarks, the candidate is therefore not responsive to the nomination forms. Additionally, the candidate will be reported to the police for further investigation. The CID confirmed that the signatures were forged. That's him there. The person who supported this candidate denied knowledge of same and were referred to the police CID.
These are just a handful of people who supported, who endorsed him, allegedly, who are now also, who have been called, who are denying that they endorsed him.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying this handful, it's possible that people can try to do damage to you, that they may have endorsed him already and then are seeking to revoke their endorsement. So it does appear that if he is intent, he could be in a hurry to see how things will pan out. But you see, in 2016, Chief Justice Wood set up special courts that were dedicated to election-related disputes. As we speak now, I'm not sure we have any yet. So they sat on the matters on a daily basis and were able to dispense with them very quickly. By October, we had finished from the High Court, and then the Supreme Court took over, and I think the Supreme Court actually gave its decision. I have the date here. Yes, gave it decision 28th of October. 28th October, the Supreme Court was done and had given a very general consequential order that all the parties that were involved ought to be given an opportunity. This time now, it looks like there's not much time on the hands of the persons involved. So it may look like it's a done deal at this point.
Yeah, something. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to return. We're going to look
however unfortunate.
Yeah, when we return, we're going to look at the caliber of those who qualified, the 12 candidates who will now be on the ballot. Dr. Kingsley J will join us to look at that. Some questions have been raised about the quality of the candidates, but why? What about, have they really shown and met the laws, the criteria of the law that says that there are various parties that represent their internal democracy must reflect of course, on what they do? We'll look at that when we return, and then we'll get a reaction from one of the disqualified candidates. Sylvia will stay with me to respond to that. Stay with me. Staying with us here on PM Express. Tonight we're of course looking at the Electoral Commission's decision to disqualify 5 presidential aspirants on the basis of potential fraud. The cases have been referred to the CID for further investigations. The EC just told us tonight that they're expecting that the CID will look into it for possible prosecutions. I want to bring in, but there are 12 candidates who are now going to be on the ballot. I want to bring in Mr. Kingsley Ajay, Dr. Kingsley Ajay, with the University of Cape Coast, political scientist there, about the caliber of those we are now seeing on the list now. Dr. Ajay, now tell me, historically, we're going to have 3 women on the ballot for the first time, presidential candidates, Ekria Donko, Bridge Dubunuku, and Nanakunde Rajuman Rawlings. That certainly must be progress.
Yes, but for me, I think that we are opening a new page in our political journey. Look, Ghana is even late in having a female president, or should I say a woman president. We have had women presidents in Liberia, in Malawi, and in Central African Republic. When you talk about vice presidents, there are many. We have had some in Uganda, the Gambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Burundi, and many other countries. Ghana claims to be a beacon of hope for Africa's democracy. We are now opening this page. So for me, it's a good move that these women, the 3 of them, have qualified as presidential candidates.
But you must ask the follow-up question, which is that they want to be president, but what have they shown to earn the right to be on the ballot? Is it simply meeting the basic constitutional requirement? Because aside them, by the way, you put in the same bracket Henry Herbert Latte. That party, GCPP, was almost dead and buried. It just popped up last month. He managed to pay 100,000, get people to endorse his form. He's going to be on the ballot. I mean, we have Ekria Donko, we have Percival Kofi Palu of the LPG, who of course has been putting out a lot of policy or proposals. We have, for example, Christian Kwabena Andrew of the Goon Party. I mean, I wonder, what do you make of that? The fact that coming into this particular confirmation process that we had tonight, many of these individuals and who represent various political parties having shown any form of internal democratic arrangements in their own parties or proposing policies that prove an alternative to anything.
Yes, that's a good question, a good comment. But you know, my brother, that politics, religion, sports, and music, or if you like, entertainment, shoot people into popularity and prominence quickly. They do so more quickly than you and I would even assume. So, one of the reasons why we are seeing many minor parties, many people we never knew joining the political fray, is perhaps to increase or to enhance their popularity. Perhaps they are well-to-do and they are comparing themselves to other people who have been there before, and they think they can also make it. The other thing also could be strategic. It could be from the major political parties. If I know that somebody is very popular in your World Bank, as we say in Ghana, if I know there is an account in a place where the MPP is popular, why don't I pose a challenge to the MPP by sponsoring somebody from there who is quite popular so that your votes could be reduced? If I know that there's somebody in the Volta region who is also popular in a particular constituency or area, why don't I do that to reduce the votes of the NDC? So it could be any of these. But for me, there are pressures there. As individuals may not be very significant, but collectively, they may make impact. They could throw the elections into a second round if they can make more than 5%.
Which looks highly unlikely, looking at our recent history, that any of them collectively might even get any close to 2% of the votes.
Yes, but then you look at the number of minor parties that we had in those elections, and then you look at now that we have even seen about 5, taken off. We still have 12. So take the 2 away, we have 10. If each of the 10 could make, say, 0.5%, they make 5%, and they could throw the elections into a second round. If they do that, then, knowing very well that they are in a symmetric contest, that will be the time for them to negotiate with any party which wants to form alliance with them to increase the chances. And that is how they can also be in government, that they make arrangement that, well, I will only join you if when you win, you would also include my people in your government. It has happened in many, many, many places. So they have been there. You might think that, oh, well, in the past, they are not able to make any impact. But this is a huge number. Assuming the investigations being conducted by the police find about 3 of those that have been disqualified and not having done anything wrong and are brought back to the fray, they increase to, say, 13, making the total 15. And each of them will at least take something. Added to rejected votes, it could throw the elections into a second round.
And that's obviously one of the scenarios that definitely could play out. In politics, there are definitely no absolutes. I want to quickly hear very briefly. We've been speaking to one of the candidates who've been disqualified tonight, Mr. Kwesi Odike. He has given his reaction to tonight's decision by the Electoral Commission. This is briefly what he told us.
This is being orchestrated by MPP. They did this with Charlotte, and we knew they are going to repeat same now, because information reaching my office is that the EC, in collaboration with MPP, are doing everything within their minds to disqualify me because of where I hail from and my party colors. This has been the bane of my disqualification. Nonetheless, there is nothing like any fake signature. All the people who endorse me has called me that EC has called them to authenticate whether they endorse me. So I am aware of everything, but so many media people told me before this release that they will disqualify me.
I still have with me Madame Sylviano. Madame Sylviano, so we had Mr. Odike there and make the point that the people that you say had forged your signatures, EC had called them and they had checked it and they had been cleared. And so he believes that there's more to it than just meets the eye. Your reaction?
Evan, so at this point in time, let me say that this is the position. The Electoral Commission has made clear his position on the candidates, the aspirants who have been disqualified. Now, the matter is before the CID. So I won't believe that if they have any issues with the Electoral Commission, he can do so when it's called to answer to a few questions, I believe. But let me say that the Electoral Commission went through the due process. There were two teams. We have the technical team as well as the IT team who delved deep into the matters, the scope within which they were asked to operate. And I would want to believe that the Electoral Commission has been very fair in terms of national justice. The Electoral Commission has given all the aspirants who filed their nominations ample time to make amendments or corrections within the ID.
I mean, Siba, just before we go, I know the next big thing is the balloting. Do you know when that's going to happen?
Tomorrow.
Sorry?
Tomorrow.
Sorry, say that again, please.
Balloting hopefully would happen tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Sibano. We'll be there to cover it. Thank you very much, Kingsley J. Also, thank you for something. Balloting is tomorrow. We get to see who is number 1, number 2, all the way to 12. That, again, is going to be one interesting thing to observe on your election headquarters here on of course, Johnny's channel. All over it tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening.